And now it's time for Fabulous Filmin' Friends. Welcome to our 102nd Blockbuster episode, The Best of Jared Hess, Part 2, Enter Jack Black, where we will discuss and dissect the aforementioned actor and director pairings, starting with 2006's Nacho Libre, starring Jack Black, Héctor Jiménez, Ana de la Reguera, Darius Rose, and Peter Stormare, compared to 2025's mega-hit blockbuster, A Minecraft Movie, starring Black again, Jason Momoa, Emma Myers, Sebastian Eugene Hansen, Danielle Brooks Dawn, Jennifer Coolidge, and Jemaine Clement. My solitary guest tonight is the only muchacho bold enough to help me fill our pockets with cinematic diamonds, a man worthy of a hearty Roman forearm handshake. Please welcome fellow former Treasure Valley dweller and Ultimate Fighting Challenge boss, Dr. David Johnson, DMD. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
You got anything funny, quippy to say to start us off?
As I was watching Minecraft, Jack Black, that just reminded me. That's all I got, Sorry.
What the hell was that? I thought you were the chicken jockey. You sounded like a preteen.
Well, I guess
preteen in the front row.
Trying to raise my voice, like Jack Black.
Okay.
That's the best I got.
That's all right. That's better than Alex any old day. Before we enter that rickety old mineshaft, the synopses. In Nacho Libre, Ignacio, a humble Mexican monastery cook, dreams of becoming a world-famous luchador and to earn respect and help the orphans he cares for. Against all odds and with plenty of epic fails, he embraces his destiny in the wrestling ring. A Minecraft Movie, siblings Henry and Natalie, new residents to the town of Chugless, Idaho, along with has-been gaming world champ Garrett Garrison and their realtor Dawn, are whisked into the blocky overworld, where they must team up with Steve, a legendary Minecrafter, to survive and find their way home. How do these two films rank in Jared Hess's filmography, and Jack Black's, for that matter? Find out! Alright, Dave, you are fresh from Minecraft, and I assume you're fresh from watching or rewatching Nacho Libre. Which film is better?
Ooh, I really like Nacho Libre, but I like Minecraft better.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I thought it was a. I mean, I do see Jared Hess's fingerprints all over Minecraft.
Yeah.
It's in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
The humor, the look.
Have you been to Chugless?
I've never heard of Chugless. I've been to Jerome, but I
think that Chugless was a matte painting, a cinematic or a computerized matte painting the whole time.
Yeah,
or at least.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a thriving town in the potato state. Yeah. But I don't know much about Minecraft. My youngest played it, but I actually liked that. I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Is it Jared Hess's best? I still have one better. It's not his best, but I'll put it ahead of Nacho Libre.
Yeah, me too. Now again, so we might get into a fight here. I didn't like Nacho Libre. Now I've this is a running jump. I finally finished it like maybe twice before. I mentioned the previous Jared Hess podcast. I couldn't finish it. I didn't like it. This time I didn't hate it, but I still think it was off. Off and not that funny.
And I'll be honest, since we did the other podcast, I would probably put Gentleman Broncos above Nacho Libre.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
I put it above Minecraft too.
Oh, you do?
Just for sheer hilarity. I didn't laugh that hard at Minecraft. I liked Minecraft. Minecraft was pleasant, but Minecraft to me was frustrating. It was funny. It had a good vibe. And against all odds, he made Jack Black likable again,
Yeah.
Because I was definitely sick of his shit.
Yeah.
So he was fine. He and Jason Momoa actually worked, but they didn't work well enough. Is my problem. It's one of those things where his filmmaking style, and especially with Nacho Libre, I don't know if he doesn't care or if he just is lazy. which I guess are one and the same thing, right? Like
Yeah.
he doesn't connect dots very well. So so Napoleon Dynamite didn't matter. It's just the whole John Heater is just carrying this movie, and the movie's funny, and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter that it's off or the plot's nothing, right? It just has to vote Pedro and has to prove himself awesome, right? So
Yeah.
he does that. It's a simple story. It all works. There's nothing to really connect. It's all sort of episodic little flights of fancy anyway. So then you get into Nacho Libre, and I'm like, yeah, I get what he's going for, but I don't think in my Catholic mindset why didn't he just stick with what he knew, which was Mormons? Basically,
Yeah.
the point of the movie is in a world where you have this sort of set behavioral pattern or set sort of code. He loves something that's forbidden fruit, right? So it seems like, well, he doesn't understand the Catholic world very well, or at least the monastic life. It just is all nonsense, right?
Yeah.
So he could have been anywhere, right? So to me, it's like, well, write what you know. Like, it's not offensive. I'm like, oh my God, I'm offended by his lack of knowledge of the inner workings of a monastery. It doesn't matter, but it just like, well, this could have been anywhere,
Yeah.
like, so at least if you're going to pinpoint it and make it, because the one thing that's funny about what we talked about is Napoleon Dynamite, is it specifically about northern or southern Idaho, right? It's like veering into Utah. It's like, it's funny because it's so specifically about a place that we know. Now, maybe the world didn't, but that doesn't matter. If you write what you know, it always comes out. So Nacho Libre, I just didn't think it worked. And I don't remember laughing that. I just I laughed 2 times. I laughed when the midgets came out, like the hell midgets. I laughed. That was funny. And I laughed when he goes, hug, big kiss, little hug, little kiss, big. That's the 2 laughs I can give you where I legitimately laughed out loud. After that, I'm like, I'm not sure this is working. So
Yeah, I mean, when I liked it, obviously it's not on the same level as Napoleon. Napoleon Dynamite, it's just funny throughout the entire movie for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in Gentlemen Broncos, there are some funny parts in that. And
right.
I
laughed much harder at Gentlemen Broncos for sure.
The writer is my favorite character in that whole.
No, I don't like it. We talked about it. Jemaine Clement, and Jemaine Clement's funny in Minecraft.
Yeah,
the whole bit of selling, the auctioneer at the self storage. That was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm looking at Minecraft. I mean, that's a big budget film.
Sure.
And I think he tried to get that same look from Gentlemen Broncos.
It felt like
small town.
Honestly, didn't it feel more like a glorified Gentlemen Broncos than anything?
It did. Yeah,
it definitely felt like a cousin to that. Yeah.
So is it better than Gentlemen Broncos? I mean, I guess it depends on the day and what mood I'm in. You know what I mean?
Well, it's okay. He's got way more money behind it, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely slicker. And it had some reasonably funny. I didn't remember laughing. I just liked the idea. I like the idea of Jack Black and Jason Momoa being bros. I thought that was funny. You know, like naturally. Oh, okay. Instead of them just being rivals the whole time, I like that they gave each other the Roman handshake and yeah. But then he's inconsistent with it. So that whole part where he goes, I'm broke, man. I'm sorry. I needed the diamonds. I'm a loser. And then Jack Black goes, man, sorry about your finances, bro. And he goes, shut up, Steve. I'm like, wait, that's not consistent. It shouldn't have been. He should have just, I know, man. I know. It's hard. It should have just been walking off and him. I didn't get, okay, this is an inconsistent movie. He just doesn't. Okay, it's fine in Gentlemen Broncos. It didn't matter. But in this movie, it is more plot oriented. So I was irritated that he didn't come on, the girl and Dawn, the older sister and Dawn get separated by what, a fire, and they're like, oh, we'll meet you some. Wait, okay, now it's just what the hell? They just wanted to separate them, so it didn't matter. It all just seemed like, okay, he doesn't care. I just think they needed to punctuate the plot a bit, and they definitely needed to punctuate the plot on the rules of Minecraft. I just thought they took it all for granted. It just seems like, wait, they're taking this for granted.
Yeah, that was the one thing for me, I guess. I don't know anything about it. I know there's an Enderman because my son played it, and I know there's zombies. I didn't
Don't
know
know
there
that,
were.
but they
I
took
did.
it. It all happened way
Yeah,
too fast in my
yeah,
mind.
and
So
and maybe it's just hitting the crowd, the younger crowd who do know Minecraft. I don't know,
but
but
even if you know it, you got to take the audience through it. So I just think rule number one is explore the world for a bit to set up the rules. It's look. I bring up Spider-Man all the time. I bring up Deadpool. Those movies don't set up the world very well.
yeah,
Spider-Man 1 was a huge, like, everybody loves that movie. It's terrible. Like, Superman the movie sets it up.
yeah,
Lois on the helicopter, dun 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 dun. Oh, she's gonna die, dun 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 dun. And you build up to Superman first showing up on the scene.
yeah,
Spider-Man doesn't get it. Minecraft, like every movie needs the buildup of to when the kid in this world starts building things like, oh, I get it, and then
yeah,
he stop. It didn't have that punctuation. Like it's like,
yeah.
oh, this is sloppy. So automatically I'm like, okay, it's okay. But I was liking the beginning a lot. Like I didn't expect. I saw the previews, Jason Momoa in the wig. I'm like, oh, this is just gonna be stupid. You know. Honestly, I'm gonna hold what I said in the last podcast. I really wish he had gotten John Heater. I wish John
Oh yeah,
Heater had played. I wish they'd switch it where Jason Momoa was the miner. It was Steve. Jason Momoa
yeah.
was no Jack Black, because Jack Black was fine. I didn't hate him, but I would just still go use your secret weapon, which is John. I just
John
just
Heater.
just for kicks. I watched Blades of Glory last night just to sort of see what he can do, because I always like him. He's always really funny. And Blades
Yeah,
of Glory was crap. It was basically Will Ferrell doing another variation of his Ron Jeremy or Ron Burgundy or whatever his, the sort of
yeah. The
oafish
character. Yeah,
like, okay. But John Heater is always game. He's got the stupid feathered hair. He's got the stupid little ballerinas, ice skating moves. He's always funny. Like,
yeah.
and this guy's career has disappeared. And I'm like, wait a minute, but he's always funny. And like him is Gary. What's his name? I just read it. Hold on a second. What's Garrett Garrison? Yeah,
Garrett Garrison, which is a great name, by the
yeah,
way. I
it
think that's
is.
an awesome
And
name for.
just imagine though, John Heater with the
Oh,
stupid basket weave baseball cap that says whatever, and him with the handlebar mustache running a GameStop type thing
yeah,
and sell. It would just been naturally funny with a mullet.
yeah,
Just him with the
yeah,
mullet being the X game champ, because he looks like he could be an X game champ. And again, he would be like James and Dino Wright rolled into one.
yeah,
Just just like this guy from Idaho who's like it's just he just been much and more of a smart aleck. And
yeah.
more of a
No,
and
I
him
agree
being
with
a
that.
know-it-all. Him being a
Yeah,
know-it-all would have been even funnier. Because Jason Momoa is just the obvious. It was so obvious I didn't want to see it. Now again, he and Jack Black I do think pulled it off.
yeah,
That was a surprise. But I just
yeah.
really wish.
I agree with that.
Like, why won't you use your? Hey, Jared Hess, I know you're listening. Use your secret weapon. He's the guy who made you a top tier director. Use your friend and a secret weapon. It just
Well,
seems.
and they brought Jack Black back in, and they brought in Jennifer Coolidge
Yeah.
back in, and it's like, why not John Heater?
Yeah.
Like,
No, what are they fighting? I don't know. Find out.
I don't know.
You live in the area.
Yeah.
Dig
Let me
in.
call him. Let me call Jared and find out.
Put your nose to the grindstone. See what's going on. Start snooping around. Like, what
the
is
one
going on?
The one thing about Minecraft, it really reminded me though. I mean, all I could think of was the new Jumanji.
Mhm.
It was very similar, the plot and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And that's the one
It
thing
had
I
a better
didn't
tone. It
like.
didn't have that. Now again, Dawn, she wasn't quite. She was a little quirkier. She reminded me of what's her face from Napoleon Dynamite, but just
Oh, Tina?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not Tina. No,
Oh,
shit.
LaFonda?
LaFonda, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
it just
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
like kind of a retread. It's not. It's not an irritating black eye rolling sidekick like our man Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's
Yeah.
annoying in those movies. He's just
Yeah.
annoying. It's, oh no, you don't. It's always like that. So she wasn't that, but she wasn't given much to do. So I was a little
Yeah.
disappointed with that. She wasn't given much. She wasn't given a whole lot to do. But so the setup was like, all right, is he going for typical? Because is he just going for your standard Jumanji type antics? Because Jack Black, I didn't like those Jumanji movies. I only saw one.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
thought this is crap.
Yeah.
This is just not, not worth even talking about.
I do think Jack Black and Jason Momoa had better dynamics and chemistry than The Rock and Kevin Hart
Right.
in Jumanji. I think
Right.
they were better
Yeah, no,
overall. Yeah, yeah,
he has that easygoing kind of natural humor, just like
yeah,
Gentlemen Broncos, where it's funny because it's it's quirkier. And so this is
yeah.
I just didn't think he went far enough. That was my problem. Like this
I
could have
think
been
I think
much
yeah.
funnier if him and Jack Black kind of like stepbrothers are still sort of one upping each other, but still like pretending like they're the best bros, which would have been funnier if they're just constantly, man, you rock, dude. And if they're kind of
Yeah.
constantly like pushing each other, kind of like Kip and Uncle Rico.
And
That
yeah.
kind of would have been funnier, that dynamic. So I thought that's where he was going when they did the Roman handshake and were like, yeah, and they were like staring. They were all like respecting each other. Like, okay, this is gonna be funny. But then he kept stopping and starting with that. By the end, they're the best friends. But just do it immediately.
Yeah.
That's the gag. Getting to Nacho Libre, Jack Black, he wasn't terribly irritating in that one either. I mean, I've seen him worse.
No.
King Kong, for
Yeah.
example. King
Yeah.
Kong, I'm like,
I haven't seen.
guy.
I haven't watched King Kong because I just have no
absolutely
desire.
Terrible. And again, you talk about the wrong guy for the job. It was Jack Black.
Jack Black.
What's he doing in this? So that was, I think, the beginning of, hey, this guy sucks. Because I was rooting for him in Cable Guy and Waterworld and all his little appearances before he became. So School of Rock, obviously his pinnacle where he became the star. Then started wearing out his welcome. His shtick became the same and kind of stupid after a while.
Yeah, because School of Rock is what, and I can't remember what year that was. If that was that
2003,
after
2005.
was after Tropic Thunder, right?
No, that was before.
Before, okay.
Yeah, I'd say Tropic Thunder. I barely remember he's even in it.
Yeah, he had a smaller part.
Yeah,
I think he did. I think Jack Black. I like him better in Minecraft than in Nacho Libre.
Yeah, I would too. But Nacho Libre, I just think that one thing I will give your good friend Jared Hess. He's got a good eye for Mexican actors. He did it with Pedro. He does it with what's his face, Héctor Jiménez. What's his name? In
Nacho Libre. Hector. That's yeah.
But
El Skeletor. I'll just call him that.
The funny thing is all the other side characters, they all didn't look like your Hollywood. Hollywood would get your George Lopez and Cheech Marin. It just looks like we've seen these same. But they all had interesting faces. They're all pretty cool looking. I just think he had all the trappings. Even the monastery looked funny and kind of interesting. But I just thought, why? Nothing matters about him being Catholic or being a monk. Like, that didn't even barely enter the picture. And they wouldn't find it offensive unless he's doing something horrible with that money. They probably would have been, honestly, Catholics, they'd been fine with him earning that money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's nothing funny here. I get his whole sort of thing. Like, it's almost a precursor to Gentlemen Broncos, where Gentlemen Broncos is Hollywood screwed me over. But this one, it's like, hey, I've got a love for something that nobody else shares, and I'm like, I don't know. I think there have been way better backdrops for this story of wanting to be a wrestler than that. It just seemed like, okay, this isn't going anywhere. So I thought all fell flat.
I think I don't know. I can't read his mind, but maybe he just wanted a different twist. Hey, let's have the Catholic priest be the.
Yeah, no, I get it. But you got to, if you're going to explore that world, make it matter, right? Everything's got to matter. Like, these are emotional beats. Like, well, what's the struggle? If he's a priest, they'd be fine with it. Honestly, he's not doing anything sinful. It gets to sin when he gets into, spending the money flagrantly or fornication or something. But this is such a harmless deal. He's just going and making money. Like, all right, okay, brother. But there was no vow of celibacy. There's no vow of silence. There's no vow of, he's going to be a cloistered. He can't, it's one thing if you're a cloistered monk and he can't leave, but they didn't establish. So he doesn't, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't know enough about the world to make it interesting. It's like, I don't get this. He's making money for the kids. It seems perfectly fine.
Well, I think the only twist with Nacho Libre is, I think Jack Black, as a priest, he had this schoolboy crush on the nun. I think that,
even that was odd.
But that was like, it wasn't blatant, but it was like you could.
No, but it was blatant, and that's odd because it doesn't even that is like, well, now he's veering into sort of sinful territory because he's skirting with it, and it still it doesn't seem like he understands the world very well. Because like, well, yeah, because they can't, like whatever their relationship is, it's with him pledging his love and wanting to marry her. It's like, okay, well now you've skirted a line
Yeah,
there, and I don't
yeah,
think he
that's
knew what
true.
he was doing. It's like, well, I don't think he
Yeah.
knows what he's doing here. And so it just,
Did he
I just didn't find it funny.
did he write the script or was
Yeah,
it
he
somebody else?
again. If you look at the credits, he and
Oh,
his
he wrote the
wife
script.
and Mike White wrote it. And Mike White is typically a good writer. So this is again. I'm just thinking, okay, he probably was cleaning up the script somewhere. I don't know. I wasn't there,
Mhm.
but it just seems to me like because I think Enlightened. I always bring up Enlightened with Laura Dern and Luke Wilson. That was really really good and really really insightful. So he can write, and he wrote School of
Yeah.
Rock, and so
Yeah.
so he can write. I just thought, okay, I don't know what he did on this because this just isn't work. The reason why it's a turkey is it just doesn't work. The reason why it was a bomb,
Yeah.
like it still has 36% on Rotten. Now again, so does Gentleman Broncos, but Gentleman Broncos, as weird as it is just much. It's funny.
It's funny.
It's
Yeah. Gentlemen
legitimately
Broncos.
it's
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
Now and again, Jack Black's pretty gross going to the bathroom, and there's a lot of still that same weird, gross humor in Nacho Libre. I just didn't think it landed. Like it just.
Well, and even in Minecraft, there was a little bit.
Oh yeah,
You,
yeah,
you
it was
know,
there
you,
for
you
sure.
could, yeah, and
Yeah,
yeah, Jared Hess's, little
yeah,
locker room,
yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah. No, when they're basically eating each other's crotches during that
yeah,
flight scene, it's like
yeah,
okay, he's getting into sort of risque humor.
yeah,
He definitely does it every time. you
yeah.
know, he always skirts this weird line between okay,
Except Nacho or Napoleon
yeah,
Dynamite. I
yeah.
don't remember
No,
any of that.
it's
Yeah.
well. Remember, I pointed out with the Uncle Rico and Tina
Oh yeah, that's
Majorino.
true. Yeah,
It
that's
gets a
true.
little
Yeah.
funky, like
Yeah.
and Uncle Rico with the mom.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So it gets
But I don't think that was as bad as
no,
with the
no,
mom
no,
as,
no. It wasn't
we
bad.
got we got
It's
to do
vaguely there.
the bro hug or whatever they called it when they're flying through the air and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like no, flip around. I'm like, okay, where are you gonna stop this, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
I was like, oh, this is kids are watching this, so
Exactly. I
yeah.
mean, it was all basically harmless, but it just seems like
Well, the
he always
innuendo is
veers.
there.
Yeah, but he always veers into that territory.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
And
yeah,
Nacho Libre, I just couldn't believe how many bathroom God. I mean,
yeah,
he really likes muck and poop, doesn't he? Like poop on the darts, poop on the
yeah,
eyes. He's
yeah.
like okay, he's always doing that. Now again, I thought it lands in Gentleman Broncos. I thought this one with Nacho Libre, it wasn't. Again, for some reason, I just couldn't get into it before, just because I was very anti Jack Black. This time through, I'm like, that was okay, but it just didn't make me laugh. Like I just didn't felt. Napoleon Dynamite felt like it naturally had a truth to it. And I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out what's he getting at other than I'm an outsider who has these tastes that nobody really understands. So I got
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
got that part, but I just thought nothing else was all that
Well,
insightful.
and I think as far as humor for me, and I know we're talking about Minecraft and Nacho Libre, but I'm going to throw in, Napoleon. I think it's a funny movie,
Yeah,
and excuse me, and I think Gentlemen Broncos is a funny movie.
yeah.
And then I'd probably say the next one I would have to probably put Minecraft. Because there were some parts I did laugh, and I'm trying to think
Yeah,
of,
I didn't.
you know, but
But I don't remember one giant solid laugh except the only time I laughed, sort of like, okay, this is funny, is in the beginning with the auction. Where
yeah,
I was
yeah,
laughing
yeah,
at Jemaine Clement and all that, and again more weirdness about him dressing up in some sort of pink tunic on somewhere like this sort of strange, like what the hell is he asking for?
yeah.
So
And
that
then
was
and then Nacho Libre, because there was some for me
yeah.
the one of the funniest parts in Nacho Libre is when he's wearing his white slacks and his polyester shirt. I for some reason I thought that was funny, and I can't remember the nun's name. She goes, "Your clothes, they look expensive," and then he's like, "These are my recreational clothes," and he flexes butt cheeks again. Jared Hess's humor, right? He
Yeah.
has to have him flex, and I thought, yeah, it was kind of funny, but I didn't laugh out loud in Nacho Libre. Napoleon, I did. Gentlemen Broncos, I did. It was funny.
Gentleman
And
Broncos has the Hector Jimenez that whole. See, there's where that's what I'm saying about him in his element.
yeah,
Because, and especially if you've lived in a small town and you've been to a small town film festival and been a judge there, like I have been, and that she had money and the best horse in the valley. That is just flat out like I was in tears of laughter
yeah,
when Michael Angarano was banging on the little spools, the cable spools. Now that's just weird and it's funny and it rings true because that's the area he's in, and if you've been there and you've lived it, that's it. It's
yeah,
just poor.
yeah,
It's poor and it's rural and it's makeshift. And
yeah,
that is true. That's what I mean about like, well, he's back in his element, and he can tell those stories and they ring true because they are true. Like, yeah, that's pretty much what a short film looks like, or that's what a homemade film will look like in that area.
yeah.
And so that's why it's good. But whereas that my only gripe with Nacho Libre is like I think he's in over his head.
Yeah, I
He
don't
just
think. I mean,
doesn't
that's
know
not as
he doesn't know the world.
well. And I think with Minecraft, he tried to, he's creating obviously CGI, but they
Yeah.
created Minecraft, but it's taking place in a small town in Idaho.
Right.
And so he is trying. I wonder if that was purposeful to get back to that kind of look and that feel, because it really did feel like Napoleon, just
Yeah.
with different characters.
Yeah. Yeah. For
And
sure.
Gentlemen
Yeah, it
Broncos.
had that. It definitely had that quality. And that's where I just felt like I don't know whether he just doesn't care or he just didn't think of it or what. Because it's like this movie needs another polish on the script. Because
Yeah,
all these things, little as I just said, it had that feel. It just the plot was a little rickety and weak, and it
yeah.
could have
No,
been
I
much
agree.
tighter and much funnier. And
I mean, even Jason Momoa's character, he is Uncle Rico in Minecraft.
sure,
When he's like, he has I loved his shop, and he has all those old
yeah,
games, and
yeah,
he's
no,
reliving, back in
yeah,
'84, I could throw a football a quarter of a
right,
mile,
no.
same thing. And
That's where John Heater playing that part would have been a riot.
oh, he would have been hilarious. I
Yeah.
think Jason Momoa did fine,
Yeah.
and
Again, he needs to. Okay, he has a big budget movie. He needs to open the movie, and maybe they're down on John Heater now because he's no longer a name or whatever the
yeah,
reason. So I say that's what I say. Get rid of Jack Black because, I mean, he's fine, but he's unnecessary. He's
yeah,
overplayed. Like he's like Pedro Pascal. He's just like
yeah,
I don't want to see Jack Black. No offense. Now he wasn't the worst. But like, hey, I just didn't need to see Jack Black, and it would have been just as funny of young Jason Momoa going up to the mine as a kid, and that guy going, "Yeah, get out of here," or whatever.
yeah,
Just to have young Jason Momoa being, he could have him in a ponytail and glasses, working in a stupid office, and
yeah,
gotta go back to the mine. Still could have been funny. Like I
yeah,
know Jason Momoa could have pulled it off,
yeah,
and it could
yeah.
have been all been funny, and then him and John Heater doing the Roman handshake be even funnier.
That would have, yeah,
It's just like I just imagine this movie could have been much better with just
yeah,
by casting alone. And
yeah,
again, just a little punctuation on Dawn for sure. I like that she had the little like mobile zoo and all that was fine and like okay, but give her a little bit more to do. And
yeah. She seemed like her character wasn't utilized.
no, not at all.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't need the oh no you don't girl in a movie. And she was
yeah,
veering on that, and I wouldn't do that to people. Like don't
yeah.
do that. Like it's
So
just
he didn't write this script
no.
though.
And you notice there's like a whole
Yeah,
huge team of writers. Like they all kind of failed, honestly,
maybe
because
maybe
it was a very weak script.
he and his wife should have penned the first one and then get it polished up, because they
Yeah.
both wrote Napoleon, and
Yeah, and Gentlemen Broncos. Yeah, it
yeah,
needed more of an edge for sure.
yeah, yeah. But yeah,
Yeah, it was again. We're talking about a kids movie. You do have to keep it simple, but we talk about Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and
yeah,
that's one of those movies that's simple and it's childlike and it's still really deep. Like I think it was there to you had the element look without even knowing a thing about the game and not caring. I don't care about the video game,
Yeah, I
and I
don't
don't
either.
care.
Yeah.
I didn't care in the movie. It's just plot mechanics. But to me, it's character beats, and the character beats that were the funniest were when they were being sort of true to the characters that they were playing. Again, just two blowhards relating to each other is funny,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
no.
And
Yeah.
that's where the chicken jockey thing seems like this could have been much. The kids love it, but it could have been much funnier if Jack Black is really spazzing on how to win. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like, no, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. You know, like it just seemed like the spaz. And again, I don't like that Jason Momoa is such an incompetent because he's a video game champ. You
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
it's like they're just not playing to the strengths of the character. He's a video game champ who should be awesome. And what's funnier to me is people who are extremely awesome and then are like really blasé about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like actual video game champs. Like, oh yeah, we
Yeah.
just got to do this. Oh well, if you just do that, like so. Again, the kid's fine. He's got the jetpack. That's all good. And
Yeah.
him figuring it out before Jason Momoa is perfectly fine. But have Jason Momoa catch up. And then
Yeah.
acting as if he's always known it all along. It just seemed
Yeah.
like the beats weren't there to be true to the characters that they put up there. So I was
No,
like,
I
this
agree.
movie's a
Yeah.
little lazy. You know, that was my big issue. Like it still had, but it had the vibe. You
Yeah.
know, you know.
It had the look. I mean, I think
Yeah.
the look was great and the feel. Like I really felt like I was small town, you know, somebody Uncle Rico, Jason Momoa living in 1980s,
Yeah.
you know, with his champion, you know, and
Like I say, he at least worked because I did
yeah,
want to see. I was like,
yeah,
that does not look good.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and I will say at least Jared Hess made it work. You know,
yeah.
when I walked out, I didn't go, "Oh, that sucked." Anyway, okay, well, there's not a whole lot to say on these two films, really.
No.
They're not worth the discussion, but I just thought we'd complete the set. You know,
Yeah, no, and I think there's a it was good. I'm glad I saw it and I've seen them all, but I again Napoleon Dynamite I mean I really like
yeah,
Napoleon Dynamite. I
yeah,
could watch it over and over and I could watch Gentlemen Broncos over and over again. You know,
yeah,
because it's funny.
yeah,
These other two, Minecraft, you know, I mean it's a kids movie. I'm like,
yeah.
And Nacho Libre, you know, I like it, but it's not something I'd pick to just sit down and watch.
Right. Well, again, I think sometimes the audience and tomato score is correct, and it has a low like Gentlemen Broncos. I get why it's a low score. It's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, I certainly understand why people don't like it because it is off-putting and it's strange. But he is making a point, and there are really funny scenes in it. Where
Yeah.
I remember I told you guys, I go, hey, let's do Gentlemen Broncos because that was really funny. I said it was stupid, and it is. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stupid parts, but it's at least when it lands, it's really funny.
Yeah.
This just felt a weaker version. The fights in the air all felt like Gentlemen Broncos with more money. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it
that's
felt
true.
like, yeah, they have that sort of nonsense little kid logic to them. And I'm fine with that. I didn't have any problem. It's not like, I thought the fights were really fake. It's not that. It's just that at least Gentlemen Broncos had sort of Sam Rockwell and everything
Yeah,
sort of bringing it all together where it
yeah,
just seems hilariously over the top, like a kid's
yeah,
fantasy. Where
yeah,
this didn't, I just didn't feel like, okay, they're in a video game world and they've got to win. There was no
yeah,
like big objective. I felt, because video games it gets bit worse and worse
yeah,
and
yeah,
worse,
yeah,
harder and harder, and it just, and I think he just doesn't care about that stuff. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I could see
I
that.
don't think any of all the video game movies I've seen, it never feels like they've achieved that feel of, oh, I'm gonna die on this. If you know how you're
Yeah.
playing a video game and
Oh yeah, you're gonna die.
down to very little power and you got
And
no
you
shields or whatever
yeah,
it is,
no
and
lives
you're about
left.
to die, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh crap, crap. I
Yeah.
don't think a video game movie has ever achieved that feeling, and
Yeah, I
they
agree with
need
that.
to. I remember that the Super Mario Brothers back in '93. And they got the I forgot their names. I used to know them, but they did Max Headroom. So they got these sort of avant-garde, sort of, like design-oriented filmmakers who didn't understand what they were doing. Like, I don't know. Did you
Yeah.
ever see the 1993 Super Mario
I
Brothers?
did. I haven't ever
Bob
watched it.
Hoskins and John Leguizamo, just awful. just
Yeah.
awful. Like pull your eyes out of your head. Awful. You can't take like this is just the worst. Just a sorry piece of crap. And I remember thinking, there's just no sense of getting to the next level.
So
You
there's
know?
no, I mean, there's no sense of urgency. Like in
Yeah.
Minecraft, there wasn't
No.
a sense of urgency.
No.
Like we're about to die,
Right.
and
And that's what's the most fun about a video game was when you
yeah,
succeed when you're on very little life. Like
yeah,
boop
yeah,
boop 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 boop. Your little life meter is down to like 2%, and you win. And that sense
yeah,
of, whoo, I made it. And
yeah.
nobody's. I don't. Again, I haven't seen what I said. I saw. No, I've never. Is there a Grand Theft Auto movie? I don't know. But the Gran
No,
Turismo.
but
Oh, that Gran Turismo movie was
Gran
actually fairly
Turismo.
good. That was
Yeah,
actually fairly
I've watched
good.
it. Yeah, I've
That
watched
was
that.
that
Yeah,
was fine.
yeah.
That actually had
Well,
a sense of.
it was interesting,
But
with
it
the
wasn't like
history
a
behind
video
it.
game. It was actually okay. The video game guy drives and becomes
Formula One
yeah, and it
car.
becomes a
Yeah,
real race car driver. It was fine. I thought it was
yeah.
actually more interesting than I ever thought it would be. You know.
Well, at least he didn't say, "Get out of the way, you bloody
Yeah,
wank
no,
out."
it was a much better movie than Ford and
Yeah,
Ferrari.
yeah.
It's like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
this is way
yeah,
better than Ford versus
yeah.
Ferrari. It looked better. The sort of ups and downs were better. I thought it was a much better movie.
Well, and it was more interesting, even though
Yeah.
I didn't know either one of those stories.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo, I was more engaged in that story than Ford versus Ferrari.
Same.
I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, exactly. Same. I
Yeah.
just thought it was a better movie. It had more
Yeah.
tension, and I was more interested in his exploits than I was Christian Bale's, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I certainly, we've talked. Ford versus Ferrari's gotten a lot of play on this podcast.
I know. Well, we're talking about, it's just you and I, so
Yeah.
we go off the topic a
Yeah.
little bit,
We can
but
riff.
we can riff.
We're
Yeah.
like Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin, just riffing.
We're the OGs of this
Yeah.
podcast,
Right, exactly.
And but no, I mean, the other thing that kind of about Minecraft is Jennifer Coolidge plays the same character in every movie.
Yeah.
And
That's her deal.
it's her whatever shtick, and that's fine. And she did fine in this. I did like her better in Gentlemen Broncos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
she had a
it
much
was-
more specific part. This felt a little bit like LaFonda and Kip.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
It felt the same sort of like thing is happening, and it's not just like that movie. It's not working.
yeah.
And again, as I said in the last podcast, that's my least favorite part about Napoleon Dynamite, because
Me too.
I don't think it's very subtle, and it seems like vaudeville. They're just really overplaying it. And this movie's overplaying the same thing. Like, okay, we get it. She doesn't recognize, but it's kind of dumb. It doesn't work.
Well, and for me, LaFonda and Kip, it just seemed out of like right field, right? Like
Left field.
what?
Left field.
Left field.
Right
Yeah,
field,
but
that means it makes total sense.
I always think if you're
No.
hitting the ball slow and you're right-handed,
No.
you swing late on the ball, it goes out in left field. But anyway,
No, it doesn't mean that.
But I know,
left field
yeah,
just means it's
left
weird.
field.
It's coming out of nowhere.
Okay. But I mean that for me was like, really? And then he's, Kip's personality changes, his whole
I'm fine.
demeanor.
I was fine with that. It's just that I've always I'm basically repeating the last podcast about this, but it's just overplayed. They're making too many gooey eyes at each other. It just seems like a silent movie, as I said. This time, the same thing. It's like the same thing is happening. It almost is following form to his other movies. That's why it feels like a Jared Hess. So that's why I think this movie's worth discussing as a Jared Hess movie, because he's not just phoning it in for the money. He definitely put his stamp on it.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think, the one that his wife directed, Jennifer Coolidge was in that too. It's about kind of it's Pride and Prejudice kind of movie. It's not Bridgerland, is it?
I don't know.
Anyway, she was in it and she was funny in that. But Jared had nothing to do with it. My wife had me watch. I'm like, oh, this is pretty funny. So, but
yeah, I'll have to look it up. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Is it his wife Jerusha?
Yeah, Jerusha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did it. That was hers.
Never
And
saw
it had
Didn't
pretty
even know it
good-
existed.
it had really good ratings in the theaters, I think.
Huh.
I just can't remember. When we're done, I'll ask my wife and she'll tell me right off the top of her head. But anyway, that was the other thing. I mean, I Minecraft, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it felt Jumanji like, similar kind of plot and everything,
Yeah.
kind of. And but yeah, better than Nacho Libre from my perspective.
Yeah, it skates by a nose, but it worked. For some reason, it worked.
Yeah.
I left the theater going, well, that actually worked, despite all my reservations thinking it wouldn't. And whereas Nacho Libre, yeah, the reason I couldn't finish it is it's not working. Like, yeah, Jack Black, he should. My point earlier about he should have just got a Mexican actor. They're like, well, I don't even
Yeah.
know why. And I'm not even saying this is about cultural appropriation because he's supposed to be Scandinavian and Mexican. Fine. But it's like, you've gone this far, just go with a Mexican actor. Like a big buff Mexican actor.
Valid point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not gonna
He's a
get
big
in the
name.
movie or anything, or the music or anything like that. It
Yeah.
was all like, yeah. All right. So, you're gonna recommend Minecraft?
Probably for like younger, kids.
Yeah.
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 I mean, like,
I'm glad it's a hit just for Jared Hess's sake, just so
Yeah.
he can go on and make bigger movies. But it didn't seem like it should have been that big a hit.
No,
Honestly, it was a
and-
bomb. I wouldn't have been surprised.
yeah, I'm actually surprised that it's done as well as it has. Because again, I don't know anything about Minecraft, but I'm like, but I think he did a fine job. And I went going, yeah, it's okay, it's fine.
Yeah, well,
it's
I was more surprised that it had more of his stamp on it than it did.
Yeah.
Than I was expecting.
yeah.
Okay, folks, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Fabulous Film and Friends. Bye, Dave. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Gene.
Thank you for listening to Fabulous Film and Friends. Copyright 2025, a Bel Air Films production.